Hi, everybody. I'm Kaitlyn Johnson with Corvisiero Literary Agency, and I'm going to be doing some query critiques today. I'm just going to go over like what works, what doesn't work, things that you could add, questions that come up during the query from what you've supplied, and I think that they would grab an agent or grab somebody who would be interested in it. So here we go. Let me share the screen. All right, so I went through some of these. Y'all kind of overloaded me later this morning and took some notes so I could go through these. But thank you, Carrie Blankenship, for this first one. So in this one, I looked at it and I neglected to put metadata for my specifics for people to add word count and genre and stuff like that. So that's my bad. But in your normal query, make sure you have all of that so that the agent knows if you have your word count in the normal industry standard or if it would need a big revision, stuff like that, and they need to know what they're reading. So I thought this was historical fiction originally as I first started reading, but then all of a sudden my teleporting sci-fi aspect comes in, which is kind of cool, different. I wasn't expecting it. So right around, where is it? Here is where I started getting questions from this query is how can crystals and danger also rule? They're both kind of different concepts here. So make sure you use concrete examples instead of kind of metaphorical or vague terms because the agent doesn't have the logic that's in your head because you know your book and we don't. So I was left wondering how the heck is an inanimate object responsible for things? So as I kept going, I was still confused how the gemstones actually, are they sentient? Do they contain an intelligence? How do they rule this kind of new world? And I find out obviously later on it's middle grade. So my advice here is to get those concrete examples, kind of start off, because I thought it was treasure hunters and I was really excited. Small southern town, treasure hunters, tours, cool thing, middle grade. But then we go right into the sci-fi, so make sure you make it clear that this isn't going to be a historical fiction and completely without fantasy elements. Just make sure the agent knows that. For me, this would be a pass just because it doesn't totally grab me, and the split worlds isn't the kind of portal fantasy-ish thing I like. But if this was tightened, pretty decent query. I liked it. Good comps as well. I like that when you say stuff like Stranger Things, there's so many elements to something that broad. Make sure you say what in that series is related to your novel. So Stranger Things, I think you're thinking of the dual dimensions. That's what in Stranger Things is. And in Goonies, it's more like the cast or the treasure hunt aspect of it. All right, so going on to the next person. Immediately, I know this should be middle grade because 12-year-old. So always put your ages in here because it always helps the agent. I love the topic of he's the only one in his family not called Bob. That's a funny middle grade quality, and it was great to put that right at the beginning where we can see it. We immediately are drawn in by the humor of it. It gets really heavy really fast. All of a sudden there's an experiment, and this little kid causes a collision. I don't know. Luckily, obviously, no deaths in that. You go light to heavy to light again with the pork and bean story, which is extremely cute, by the way. So your heaviness actually is balanced really well. In some queries, you can go heavy and then just stay heavy the whole time, and it kind of bogs your query down. This was good mixing it up. I was curious why he was doing an experiment, though. Why is a little kid doing an experiment, and why did he think his family would be impressed by something like that? So maybe give us a little bit more detail there. The second paragraph kind of took me completely by surprise. I wasn't sure how the second paragraph adds into the first paragraph. We're looking at this really cute story of a kid trying to impress his family, and then all of a sudden we're going to CIA and hidden identities, and his father's being outed and burned, and very random mixing here. Of course, this might be clarified, obviously, in a real query if you had your metadata up at the top, so I withhold judgment from that, obviously. But very different kind of chaotic concepts here. I leave this query wondering how the plot can be rectified. If he's a burned spy, he can't come back to his family, can he? Or is the whole family going to get like relocated? I kind of left this query with no certainty on what was actually going to happen with the plot or how Andy could actually influence it at all. So that would be something I would clarify in the second paragraph here, so I actually know where the story is going and that it has the capability of being tied in a little bow at the end. All right, so the next is middle, and now we have our metadata, which I love. And I'm sorry that I didn't specify that in my specifics, but yes, metadata. So immediately, for me, I see Japanese legend and I'm already excited. Most people know if they check my manuscript wish list and stuff that I'm obsessed with Japanese legends because they're just gorgeous and filled with so much meaning. So when I was reading this, I'm confused how the Yakuza came in. I read Asian American and this may just be me and it may be a mistake, but I immediately assume she's in America then, if she's Asian American, which she totally doesn't have to be. But that's the assumption that just pops in my head immediately. So I was confused how the Yakuza could actually play a factor in that. It's also middle grade, so that puts me on edge a little bit that something so violent is being put into the middle grade. Not that they can't be violent, but it's a very touchy subject in Japan when talking about the Yakuza. Also, my cat's name is Kiko, so your character has an awesome name. So I like that you immediately establish that she kind of is owning that American Asian side, so we can kind of get the kind of kid she is, where she's just like, I'm not stereotyping. Don't stereotype me. I am me, basically, if I articulated that well. And I love that you immediately go right into there's a supernatural aspect to this. So I loved that. So when her grandma dies, she has to go to Tokyo. So you're showing me the plot, which is great. You're opening doors. You're answering some questions that were up here. So notice in this, you're telling me themes though. Where is it? Probably this one. You're giving me themes for your story instead of the actual progression. You're telling me about crossing borders, becoming independent, love doesn't leave. I think that's actually up here. There's no hook in that information. When you're giving a query, make sure you only focus on concrete details of your story. Themes and stuff like that, we can get that from the page. Even in the synopsis, sometimes it gets woven in. But in your query, you have such little space. Focus on your actual story. We'll glean themes and meanings from you later. I want to know the concepts and the stakes too, so I want to go farther down here. That doesn't start to the second paragraph. I want you to get right to the goods. You say in the beginning it's about the Yakuza, but it actually ends up about being a Yakuza widow. So there's a bit of a disconnect there. I'm not sure which is correct. As I go farther on, I realize it's about the widow. So maybe just say that instead of involving the gang right at the beginning, because now I'm picturing a different story. So the only stake here is finding the grandma. I think there needs to be something a little stronger. If there is something stronger, like she's risking other things. She has somebody coming up with her, right? Shinto priest and her cousin. So they're at risk too. So make sure you include what's at risk for her and not just find grandma or not find grandma. There needs to be something. And I still question the Yakuza a little bit, because why can't it be like a battle with a tech rival who just wants grandpa's information? These are the questions that will go through my head as I'm reading this. All right, another middle grade, 12-year-old. So immediately I know it's middle grade. Good job. Oh, this one was actually really good. Right off the bat, you talk about a spell. So I immediately go to, are they witches? Are they not witches? Why are we doing spell work? Make sure you clarify this. If it's a rule of your world, try to convey it in a way that we can tell it's natural. It's actually a part of everyday life. And you say Winghaven, and I'm sitting here going, I don't know what Winghaven is. What is this to these girls? So make sure you clarify that right at the beginning there. Become greatest heroes, brother soccer camp. Good little added thing here. So I understand the aspects of this world. There's normality and there's magic / different worlds and heroes. So that's good to know. We see kind of a little bit about your character here, which is cool. She's a little stubborn. She's a little independent. So she goes and does her own thing. What stories are we talking about? See, I don't know your rules. I don't know how Winghaven came to be. So as I read that, I'm like, what stories has she heard and who's telling them to her? So maybe just say Winghaven isn't what she expected, and let the stories come through in the pages when we realize the backstory on this. I loved the twist. I absolutely loved the twist where there's an organization that actually like gets heroes and sells them off. I'm curious why they're selling them off. Is it because some worlds are desperate and need somebody to help them, or are they selling them to different dimensions? I'm a little confused on why they was selling in the first place. It was really cool that they have a storage room full of cursed heroes who fail quests and need to kind of redeem themselves. That was a really cool element. Good job there. There's lots of crushing in this. She's crushing on her best friend, then she goes to the new world and she starts crushing on a council member. Is the crush aspect necessary? Does she even need a crush on her original best friend? Because sometimes this can end up seeming like a driving force of your plot. And it always will make me be on the edge of, is this going to be all the characters just focusing on emotions of being on a crush with somebody? Also, if this person's on the council, how can she have a crush on them? Is it also a 12-year-old? And why is a 12-year-old on the council? Don't ask me why I'm neurotic. These questions just pop into my head all the time for these kinds of queries. This was a maybe for me because it's still a really cool concept, and the query is still clear enough that I know what's going to happen and the tension and the stakes at it. So good job. Next is, we had so many middle grades. I'm excited. So 12-year-old Kate. Aha, yes. So I wasn't sure if this girl was homeless or living with somebody in these first paragraphs. I know later you tell me it's an uncle, like a mad scientist uncle, which is awesome. But the first sentences made me think her dad died, and ever since she's been living in the woods, saving animals, which is cool, but that's not your story. Also, this sounds super familiar. I think you were in Pitch Wars or another contest, but I've definitely seen this before, so you are memorable, just letting you know. So the mad scientist is a really fun tidbit. I really liked that. Clarify when we talk about the creature that they're hiding she helps it hide in the woods, because when you said it popped out of one of the uncle's holes, I pictured it like in their house. He creates a portal and the monster topples out and she has to help it escape to the woods before like her uncle can capture it or something like that. But what it seems like is she's in the forest and his uncle doesn't know he's opening portals, and they open in different places. So nobody but her does know about the creature. So clarify what's actually happening in your story. That's not going to hold an agent back with your query, but it does help entice them in, basically. At least you're not. Sounds familiar. So yeah, this actually is a very good query. Clear up some details here and there. It's a good word count too. So this is definitely would entice an agent to see more pages. Definitely. All right, next one, middle grade. You give me stakes right off the bat, and I really, really liked it. She immediately establishes she's a writer, she's a journalist, she's got that head on her shoulders. And we immediately get the kid factor of her where that matters to her more than school. So she's letting her assignments falter, and then her parents give her the ultimatum: schoolwork or the newspaper goes. Immediate stakes, immediate tension, immediate motivation. Brilliant. Great job. I really liked that. However, through this query, the homework factor of that stake kind of trickles away. It seems like she starts making up stories, but when does the threat of shutting it down actually play as a true factor? Because the newspaper stories get more and more and more, and then she has to prove she can do real good stories more and more and more. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, what happened to her homework? Did she actually like just give up on it? So it just shows that she is still balancing this throughout. So she's still finding a way to have both worlds to satisfy that ultimatum. The revelation feels very random in this. Where was it? Oh, yes, that they're not actually related. I was very confused by that. I don't know that's necessary in your query. It may just give too many plot points for the agent to focus on during this. You want it short, concise, to the point. This maybe could come in the synopsis where that gets revealed. In here, I don't think it really helps your stakes or gives us a hook to really read. It just kind of got plopped in. What was my other comment? I think an agent would probably request to see more of this because you established the character and the plot wonderfully. The only place I faltered was like right around here, where the random family secret and genealogy happens, and now she has to do homework well, she has to save her paper, and she has to save her friendship with Alice now. There's a lot going on in it. So maybe Alice should take a back burner and just focus on those two working together to save the paper. Next. I took notes on these guys, so if I pause, I'm probably trying to find where I am on the page again. The first YA. I think it is. Yes. Yes. Ace McAllister. Okay. So there's a lot of info in this first paragraph. I would suggest reading through it again and maybe condensing it a little bit, because we've got the caring for the 12-year-old autistic brother, covering for the fleeing father, helping the alcoholic mother, I guess. And then we just go into hanging out with Cameron. He's possessive, he's blah, blah, blah. Maybe shorten these examples. She's a high school senior and she's a family peacekeeper while she struggles to hold her all the secrets in while also caring for her brother. She also has to deal with possessive and creepy neighbor boy Cameron. One sentence should be enough to like put all this together. And then go right into the vacation thing. There may be a need for sensitivity readers, be aware, because she does go onto the reservation and meet somebody from the reservation. So I would possibly look into beta readers that can make sure these sections are accurate, make sure representation is okay. I haven't read it, so I don't know exactly how this character plays into it, but I always suggest doing your homework and doing sensitivity readers, which you probably have. So, but I always just say it just in case. Both moms were alcoholics. I didn't like that because I felt like it was just kind of reusing the same plot point, but it depends how you use it in the book, obviously. So that could completely work, and that's how the kids bond. So that completely could work. I'm not saying take that out at all. I just know in the query itself, when I found that out, it gave me a little bad feeling. So I don't know that it's necessary in your query either. Just focus on Ace, focus on John, and then you did exactly right. Ace first paragraph, John second paragraph, intersection in the last paragraph, and then the stakes in the last paragraph should be present. So your structures are great. I was curious how they're living lives in danger. They're framed for Ace's kidnapping, which didn't actually happen. So why are they living like save their lives? They must race to save their lives. I didn't realize their lives were at risk. So maybe clarify why that's a factor. I thought it's mostly they're racing to clear their names and save their love. So maybe that's a new tagline you could use instead. But yeah, sorry, I'm changing my page now. All right, 16-year-old Rin. Fairies. So I'm going to just right off the bat tell you I'm not a fairy person. Very rarely will I get attached to fairies. But as for your query, there are a couple questions I got from it. She sees through these portals. Is she the only one who can see through these portals? Is it because like she's from that world? You don't have to explain that here, but maybe do explain that she is the only one who sees through portals, because I wasn't quite sure. In your world, you haven't established your world enough yet for me to really get if this is unique or different, really. Magic and flare are the only things that happen. That was interesting. It's kind of almost like a Cinderella story. So that was I liked that it was a different take on something like that. The royal family could, I just wanted to get them clear. So they are responsible for the slavery that happens, for stealing children, and they condone it. And basically they're telling her she can never tell anybody, or they'll kill her. Are those the stakes right there? And she decides it's better to fight this persecution and this slavery rather than just keep her life all happy. Well, not happy, but safe, I guess. That's where I wasn't really clear on. You say she looks through portals and stuff, but then she has to hone her powers. What powers? Looking through a portal to me doesn't scream powers. It just screams like she has the ability to see something. So how does she hone that? So clarify that as well. Yeah, what's at risk if she fails or succeeds? Because right now it seems like she's the only wingless servant, which I don't think is true, since you say they do take children from this world and use them as servant labor. So where are the others? So clarify your world rules, just because I didn't get a concrete sense of that. All right. Yes, the one Jen has. I read this last night. Is it own voices was my big question. You don't have to obviously like say that, but it will come up in conversation most likely with the agent if they do want to offer. Because if it isn't own voices, you're definitely going to need a sensitivity reader or a beta reader. Because especially because of the OCD factor and mental hospital factor, you're going to need some readers for that. Just heads up. 4 suicides all in the same month. That got like semi-heavy to real heavy real fast. Yes, 4 suicides, and then also there was a mirroring factor, wasn't there? Oh yeah, 4 suicides, then 4 classmates in the hospital with her. It's a little, I don't know if that's meaning anything, but I definitely noticed immediately that there was a pattern there. I'm confused on the conspiracy here that you've set up, because she goes to the mental hospital. The deaths and stuff like that are odd, and the 4 students going with her are odd. So I get her suspicion, but when she's given the drug and they say in it, you say it helps the OCD but takes away what she is. That to me just screams a lot of just common medicines nowadays, because a lot of complaints against certain medicines are that it cures the problem for them, but it either like dulls the senses or takes away your energy, stuff like that. So clarify why this is like really strange, that it would spark her suspicions and want her to expose the hospital for something. Clarify why that's such a big deal to her. Because right now it just sounds like she doesn't like her medicines, and things may not be as she seems, and she's picturing the hospital as evil when they're really not. Unless, it's an unreliable narrator, then there you go. You totally fooled me. So I think first half of your query is really good and really compelling. The second half's a bit too vague, so I just needed some more concrete details. Great word count. Great job with pitch words, by the way. And yeah, I look forward to hearing Jen's thoughts on your full, by the way. Next, where am I? I need to start like writing down who I've already talked about so I can find you on the page again. All right. Yes, cryogenics. I was confused. So this is really cool. Your second and third paragraph are really good. It immediately establishes who is going to come into the picture with Bryn, the conspiracy behind it, how he plays in with like playing off of her, the characters play off each other, and then the conflict and the stakes. I really liked these last 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph, however, I didn't understand your world logic. So make it a little clearer. She's being frozen for a spouse. I don't know how that works. Like, does she have a spouse picked out already? Or do they all have to get frozen at a certain age? And how long are they like, why are they getting frozen for spouses? I was just confused on that. And that could just be me not connecting to the plot aspect of it. But I felt like it was a little too hidden for me to understand the actual like purpose for that. So that first paragraph was the only place I really had any issues with. The rest of it was, and why the freezing was so brutal that she, that it compels her to like rebel. Give us a clear picture. Like, does it traumatize the body? Do they scream? Are they in so much pain while it goes? I want to know why she actually rebelled on that. Yeah, the twist was really cool. The sun being the first frozen to hide a secret was brilliant. Great addition to this query. So yeah, just establish your world rules in the first half. The last 2 paragraphs are really, really good hooks. Brenda Marie Smith. Okay, so this is new adult, but the character's 18. So I wanted to just clarify why 18. Always make sure you go back to your story and decide if the age you've chosen is necessary, because he's also married and about to have a kid at 18. And not that that doesn't happen, because it does happen all the time. But in your story, why is that 18? Because technically this is a YA, but with your themes, it does take to the new adult. So you may want to consider moving it to 19 or 20, maybe, just so it fits more in your new adult category. And this is more of a to me, this was like an environmental dystopia. So it was different. It's a little genre bending. It was a little different. I wasn't sure how to feel about that. And that's a good thing because that means I'm curious. So let's see here. I would reword your first paragraph. It gets a little confusing. And the time periods, I get a little confused how much time has elapsed between each area. I would maybe start with Kino grieving over the loss of his sister, and his family returns and only piles on more guilt. One simple sentence, and we get the picture of what Kino's going through, what has happened to him, and now he has to move forward. Last two paragraphs are really decent. Yeah, it was a good query. Yeah, I would just clarify that beginning, and I think you would definitely pique some interest in this. Good job. Next person. All right, so right away we obviously get the world rules on this. It's a world filled with sexism. The men are at the top. They control lives of the females. So you've clarified that right off. But I don't like that the first time we actually see a girl mentioned, she's referred to as ugly duckling. It immediately puts negative connotations on feminists, or not feminists, sorry, females, in an already not great world for females. So I didn't really think there was a necessary use of ugly duckling. It could turn off an agent immediately. So perhaps say she's more selected as a candidate for an arranged marriage, and she needs to decide if it's worth it to escape poverty. Very simple, very clean cut, and you don't have any language that might turn the agent off thinking this is going to be big. I'm forgetting the word I want to use, but that it's not going to affect readers negatively with the main character. What was the next thing? Oh, remove this idiom. Where is it? Have her cake and eat it too. Try to stay away from cliche phrases, stereotypes, stuff like that. In your query, just keep it nice and concise. So she must decide if it's worth it to escape her poverty. She signs the contract, confident. So is she finding a loophole in the marriage aspect? Does she think she's going to be allowed to have education but no marriage? I'm confused why she even thinks that she could find a loophole. I thought she knew what she was getting into, that she's agreeing to marrying a stranger to escape poverty. So I was confused with the loophole. And then I thought this was getting a little stereotypical with Mean Girls. It's a school full of mean girls, and I thought that was very surface level. It gets a little tropey there because I'm immediately picturing like books like The Selection, all that kind of stuff, where we have this little mean girls troop that is down on the person because they come from poverty. But with the world you set up, I feel like that would be more common than not, is that people agree to do this because they're either in poverty or they want to change their social status, or they have no option. They're forced into it. So I felt the strength of this academy of mean girls didn't make sense to me, because I feel like her situation would be mirrored in a lot of other people. And yeah, there will be some who just wanted to do it, but maybe clarify. Okay, next one. So 30,000 is very low for an upper middle grade. I'm used to, for upper middle grade, I would usually expect it to be no lower than 40 or 45,000. 30,000 is very, very low. Lost his dad, then his home. Yes, okay, I remember now. We need more details in this. Right now, as I read this, and I didn't understand if locked out of his house meant he'd lost his keys, or if it meant something like foreclosure or bankruptcy. Up here, it kind of clarifies. I can't talk today. Clarifies, but it really should be in the body of your query that we know exactly what happened. Foreclosure, did his dad die? We need to know all this stuff. Where is it? I lost my place again. We don't learn enough about his family, the secret, or the stakes. Tell me what happened to his family. Tell me what happened to the home, and why this secret is so important that he has to break into the house to get it. I need just concrete details. Right now it's very, very vague, and I don't actually know what's going on. Also, like, that should be this paragraph, and then add another paragraph to tell me the stakes. What if he fails or succeeds in the missions? If he doesn't get the secret, what actually happens to his family or his life? If he gets arrested, what happens? If he actually gets the secret, what happens? I need to know actual stakes that are going to draw me in and make me want to go to the pages. Okay. Next one. All right. So this sentence, I originally thought this was contemporary, actually. Which you gave me a twist that I wasn't expecting. So it's like a middle ground. I really like it. But I was also thrown by it. Because this is more of like a magical realism, I feel like. I'm sorry, I'm the person who hates contemporary fantasy, the term. I think it's an oxymoron, and we need a new term for it. I agree we need a new term for it, but I don't like that one. I'm sorry. I know other agents completely disagree with me. But I loved your hook. I know all the unique details in this. I know your setting. I know your character. I know how these two characters intersect, which is great. And I know the dangers and stakes of the strain. This was a very well-written query. So everybody who's listening, like, she did a very, very good job. I would request this in a heartbeat, reading this in my box. Hint, hint. You may be getting reached out to. The word count's a bit high for a middle grade, but it's doable. And it's definitely been done before where published works are this high. I'm an editing fiend, so I would probably edit it down a little bit. But yes, this was very, very well done. So, example of the day. Well, of right now. All right. I was very excited immediately about this one, YA historical. And great job, people take note. She noted that there's alternating POV. If there are alternating POVs, which usually mean two, or multi-POVs, always tell the agent so they can be aware going forward it's not just going to be one voice consistently. I wanted to know if Anna was Vietnamese because she's born in the Vietnam War and adopted by American soldiers, but you don't tell me if she's actually born in Vietnam or any of the like lands. So I wasn't sure on the nationality on this because I always ask that to know if maybe there needs to be a sensitivity reader. That's like forefront in my mind is if is it own voices? Do we need readers? And so on. Loved the single dad bit. Loved that this is a perfect way of explaining characters in the briefest phrase possible. She and dad are a two-man crew immediately tells you, like, you picture the dad-daughter bond thing going on. So that great way to tell me that. Great hook about the trunk that goes to different timelines where the trunk is the connection. I did want to know, however, who Francesca is to Anna. Are they related? Do they have the same like heritage or bloodline? Or is it literally just Francesca had the trunk, we're learning Francesca's story. Later on, the dad buys the trunk from like some secondhand store and we're learning Anna's story. That's what question I wanted to know because they're two very separate people and they both have father, not issues, but their fathers are tackled in these storylines, but I wanted to know if the girls themselves are connected in any other way. It's definitely enough to intrigue an agent. It's a well-written query. Couple factors needed to be solidified, but it definitely would draw somebody in for pages. So another one to keep to study, I guess, for people. Interesting time in history to choose for this with the date that the Mayan calendar said the world would end. Really cool. I was immediately intrigued by that. So great job immediately piquing my interest and telling me. I did like that you said also that you used to have an agent and that you were seeking new representation. Good to know that going in. I was curious what the wisdom was. Where is it? Born, less evolved, without access to the wisdom. Well, I wanted to know what the wisdom was. It's a great factor. I love knowing that this is the struggle for him, but I just wanted to know what it was so I could actually better picture it. Don't know I'd call this a disability. It's more like when you're in school and you're in a remedial math class because you can't grasp something or you can't achieve things like certain things, I guess. I'm always hesitant and look closer to see before calling something a disability. Going forward. But it depends how it's used in your text, obviously. I would have to read to know that. This paragraph otherwise is really, really great. It tells us a lot about your story. It immediately hooks me. He finds out about the rogue commander and the conflict. So we immediately know what's at stake, what's possibly going to happen, and what spurs him onward. His ancestor's legacy, though, is the rogue commander his ancestor? I didn't get that. So maybe clarify that up here instead of popping it down here and making me confused on the connections here. I like the fact that he took control to save others. You didn't kind of bog the paragraph down trying to tell us his motivations. You immediately just gave us his actions, which showed us his motivations. So great job, because he immediately just stole the spaceship and went off. I was wondering, and this might be something that would be answered in the page. I still think this would probably get a request from an agent. I wanted to know why Earth was so important to Adia. If I'm saying that incorrectly, I apologize. I wanted to know why Earth was so important and why the boy would want to save the planet in the first place, because this is an alien race that's far more advanced than ours. Is it just because they would be responsible for its destruction because it's one of their own? So yeah, I was just confused why these aliens would have stock in the world. But it also has a bit of a chosen one theme, which could still work, but sometimes gives pause. But yeah, definitely enough to get a request from an agent. Oh, I'm trying to go fast with this, sorry. So first thing in this paragraph I wonder is why her world is turning upside down. I don't have enough factors here. We just get told world's turning upside down. Favorite teacher portrays her how. I don't know how that and crush dumping her is not enough to really warrant this statement. It's more of when the crush dumps her, she goes to do this. So this progression in your query didn't quite work for me. Interesting twist on the heritage, though. That's what you should probably go to quicker. World is turning upside down. Immediately go to, she believes she's a proud Russian named after Lenin, and then realizes she's Jewish and that her country could, turn on her. Or is expecting her to blend in and just pretend to be something she's not, and are prejudiced against her. That's compelling. I would possibly just take out the whole bits here. It would just streamline it really well. Interesting. I'm not sure if it has enough of a hook, and that could just be from your wording in this, because where's the drive for the book? Everything's happening to Lena. I may be saying that wrong. The conflict is surviving in Russia long enough for their grandfather to give them permission, but that's a very passive tone. Lena just sits back and waits for things to happen. I wanted to know what actual solid stakes were. Do they risk going against the grandpa's wishes and fleeing, which is obviously risking death, or do they decide to stay and wait for him, or do they decide to just give up on it altogether, dooming her to a life of a false identity? Clarify these things, because right now it didn't have enough pull for me. All right. This sounded like lower upper grade to me, not upper grade. Upper middle grade. The word count was a bit low for upper middle grade. It could work, but a little low. And the fairy tale element always makes me lean toward lower middle grade. It depends on your voice, though. I haven't seen your pages, so I can't say that for sure. I wanted to know, is it Lily convincing Cinderella that she's her daughter? Or that Lily is the daughter of Cinderella? Because you say they stole the prince's firstborn, which would have had to have been with Cinderella, right? They would have had it together. And they managed to place the changeling, right? They put the changeling in, they pulled Lily out, somebody rescued Lily now, and she's been raised in this other world where she doesn't know what she is. So does Lily ever need to face this changeling? That would be very compelling, because this changeling, we don't know if she knows what she is or if she thinks she's the princess too. So clarify some of this, because it didn't come across all that complete to me. But it was a decent query. I think it could definitely garner interest from agents. They may have the same questions and just really want to know more. Yeah, so good job. I would just try to clarify those details. I'm trying to go faster now. I feel like I'm lagging. What time is it? Yeah, okay. So this had thriller elements. So I don't connect to thriller very much, but I'm just letting you know it does. But it's kind of like a mix. It's almost like contemporary turns into thriller, so it's interesting. It's a good query. Gives me character setting and conflict, and then I get the stakes at the very end. I can definitely see it grabbing an agent. I liked your twist in the middle. We're just seeing, prep school, unhappy with it, doesn't want to go, and then mother disappears and she has to go, and it follows a structure I've seen before, which with these kind of stories usually works very well. This query is a little bit long though, so I would maybe condense it. Don't go so internal with it. Like all of this stuff. Some of it can just be condensed a little bit, take a few unnecessary internal reactions away. But yeah, I can see it. I could definitely see it grabbing an agent. Gender flipped retelling. That made me happy. And I'm a big Beauty and the Beast fan, so that's really cool. This was a good summation of your actual story. This is really good. This is kind of like a log line for a script, so it was well done and immediately piqued my interest and pulled me in. The only thing I questioned, because it was a good query, this is a retelling that's not very surface level. You have to dig for it, which is what I love. It's not obvious. The characters are active, so this is a very good query. The only thing I questioned was Mutt, his best friend, inherits this position of scribe, female, but he decides to take her job. I was confused. Why does he get to do it? Why is he qualified? Also, why does she not want it? Why would she back out? Because you'd think the Empress knows or her staff or someone knows a female is supposed to come in and take the position. So when a male shows up, they'd be suspicious. That's just where my brain goes. And then I was confused on the stakes. Destroying is better than or equal to saving the Empress. I wasn't quite sure that landed very well. I know you're trying for like a cool hook there, but I'm not sure it completely went through. You might want to use something a little more solid. Maybe that he like finds a way to save or release her from the curse, or on the other hand, he would have to watch her and the entire continent burn, something like that. Just a little more of a clarification with that. Next page. Middle grade tour guide. I loved the aspect of this that it's ghost hunting kind of thing. Well, a ghost tour. I liked that. However, my mind immediately went to the ramifications of hiring a 12-year-old. Most places you can't hire a 12-year-old. They're too young. You can't be paying them. So, yeah, that was just where my brain went. I wasn't sure on the logistics there, but you have a great first line. Great. It immediately gives us voice, gives us character. It's great. The next two are a bit scattered. We don't know his dream, so we don't understand why he has to do those two things in order to even like get anywhere. And I also don't know why he has an interest in Lester Washington. And I think by actually telling us what that dream is, you're gonna get that clinch factor. Right now it's way too vague, and I completely just like don't understand the rest of the query because I don't understand the logistics to it. Cool idea for a road trip with the ghost, though. That was really cool, and I liked it. You say later, like something about what if he fails, Lester will stay a ghost forever. What can he be other than a ghost? Is he trying to like get his physical body back? I wasn't sure what that meant. Your word count's right on the edge for middle grade, so good job. That's still a very doable word count. And I could definitely see it grabbing an agent. I would just we need to know what it's all for, so you need to tell us the dream, or at least somehow clarify it. But yeah, interesting. I was curious on this one if it was off Irish mythology. If so, definitely state that in the bio area, because that's helps clarify what things are. Up here, he's protecting his brother from the war. We get a good sense of that. We get a good sense of what happened to their land and why they're scared of those people, monsters. I wanted to know why they kidnapped his brother. Was there a motivation for this, or did they just snatch him in the field one day? Why is his brother important enough to be kidnapped? was confused why this kid would not know he's an animator, which means I don't know your world building, basically. It means I don't know if it is latent and exposes itself eventually, or if it's in you when you're born. So I was just confused why he wouldn't even know about it. If it's just in your blood, then like wouldn't the magic be a part of you and you just kind of can't ignore it? I don't know. Everything happens to this character, Morgan, instead of him being an active person in his own story. His guard, Isaac, does everything for him basically and gives him all his information. Morgan's mostly reacting to the events that are around him. So I would try to clarify how he actually does drive his own story. Otherwise, the more I read this, the more it feels like Morgan isn't a compelling character. But also, woot Page Street. You work at Page Street, and that's awesome. They're cool. Great bio. Always great. This is a great way to add own voices too, without going into too much detail. Just mentioning it, and it's done, and it's there, and the agent knows. Good job. Next person. All right, Christina. Is this adult or young adult? I was very not sure. I'm pretty sure it's adult. But the only like thing in this is she's trying to find love. So I would assume it's adult. I don't know. I want to know the rules to this. Who's not allowing her a mate? Who says that she is who assigns her protector of the dreams, and that means that these rules must be met? Who's pulling the strings here? I was also confused how she could protect the dreams. I think all of your world rules need to be clarified and established here because I didn't understand why things were happening the way they are. I don't know how she can protect dreams, why she needs classes to do so. How is it weakened? How does she weaken herself? I'm confused. You mentioned demons finally, which I'm assuming is kind of metaphor for nightmares, which is really cool. This is definitely a detail that perhaps should come earlier, that's what she protects people from. But then we go in saying she's an alien. I was completely torn. I didn't know what was going on. Home planet Dulon, so she's an alien who protects human children. I don't know motivation for that, and I don't know why. I thought she was going to find her true love, but then she kind of gives up on Nicholas when he wants a new job that she doesn't approve of. So clarify the plot progression here. Did she end up with him? If she doesn't actually end up doing anything with him, I think you would take him out and just focus on her journey trying to find love. But there's no stakes in this, and I don't get the plot progression. She looks for answers, seems to give up in the end. The end doesn't tell us anything except that somebody encourages her. Make sure you tell us the stakes and what she'd be willing to do for it. Right now, it just seems like she gives up and there's no reason for anything in this plot. Not enough to grab the reader. So make sure you tell us more about that. All right, we're on to my handwritten notes, and I don't think I really have any time left. So I got a lot overnight. I'm definitely still going to give everybody feedback. I have a bunch of written up notes, and I have all weekend to do it. So I think I am out of time. But thank you guys for sending stuff to me. Thank you for letting me critique this on live event. And if you have questions, I mean, I have a freelance website. I do query critiques and stuff like that. So definitely shoot me your questions and reach out to me if you ever want to chat about your query and stuff like that. I'll still be going through these through the weekend. So don't think I've forgotten about any of you. But yeah, I think, yes, that's all. All right. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of the conference, and I'll probably be in touch with some of you. All right. Thank you so much. Let me take this off. All right. I don't know.